Can I be just honest here, like a moment of realness?
Please confess. It'll be healing.
Well, confession is just telling the truth. So
yeah. Okay. The truth was toward the end of the book, and like the pastor's in a certain kind of stage where it seems like there's some audible voices that he's hearing, like really having a conversation with some figures that seem to be divine in nature. I'm trying not to spoil things, but and I found myself a little bit jealous almost of the pastor's situation, that he is having this opportunity to hear so clearly from the divine. And I'm like, I wish I
jealous. Jealous is the right word here, not envious, right? Because there's a big difference between jealousy and envy. Jealous.
I may have been envious. I don't know.
No.
Okay.
You were actually truthfully jealous, because jealousy is about something that actually belongs to you. Envy is about something that doesn't belong to you. That's why
that's awesome.
Wow.
God is a jealous God, but never an envious God, right? Because he is jealous for you because you belong to him.
Yeah.
Right? He's not envious that you belong to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And so when you say I was jealous, you're actually telling the truth, because that kind of encounter belongs to you.
Yeah.
And now the question is, what has inhibited it, Bradley?
Yeah. So I want to express how we got there with the real people the book is about, because they all got there. And while I do that, Paul, could you pull up the text from Jackie about the abortions?
Yes.
Okay. And so I'll give a backstory. So when we talk about dialogue with God, which is a very real thing for us, we have moved past a kind of prayer life that is just telling God what we want or need or think, into listening. And it's not it's not so much like a charismatic prophetic thing, so much it's a contemplative listening to the still small voice. But here's how we do it with very, very broken people. And then we found out it's not just for very, very broken people. This is the inheritance of every Christian. Here's how I do it. I say, if you could have a meeting with God, an encounter, a connection, anywhere at all, where you would feel perfectly safe, where would you have it? And people go, I'd meet him by a beach, or I'd meet him on a mountain, or I'd meet him in my favorite prayer room, or I'd meet him in a cave, or I'm like, that's awesome. And if God were to come to you there, how would he come to you? Does he come as father, as friend, as light, as lion, as lamb? But if you're able, can he come to you as Jesus? And they're like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, so where is he in that picture? So now they're imagining it, except they're not really imagining. They're entering their heart, where he already is waiting for them. And then I say, what expression do you see on his face? Can you come close enough that he would touch you? What's the very first thing that he says to you? And so when we first encountered Jackie, I met her in a inner healing clinical encounter, and I was there as an assistant to the minister, and we spent the first half day just doing that. So he said, okay, and I'll give you an example. It's from somebody else. It's like, so if you could meet God anywhere at all, where would he be? Oh, I see him under a tree. He's sitting under a tree and he's waiting for me. Okay, can you move towards him? Yes. And they just begin sobbing. I'm like, why are you sobbing? Because he's so kind. He's so beautiful. He's so gracious. I'm like, well, what did you think he'd be like? And this person said, I thought he'd be harsh and condemning and critical, like Christians. And this person's not a Christian.
Yeah.
And here, okay, so now they see Jesus under a tree waiting for them. Where is this happening? It's happening in their heart. Mm. So I get up closer and I say, so as you get closer, what expression do you see in his face? What are his eyes telling you? And she says, his eyes say, I know. And now she's really crying. And I care. That's just what his eyes are saying. So then I said, what's the very first thing he tells you? And Jesus speaks to her in her heart. I've been waiting here your whole life. waiting under the tree of life in her heart for her to come. And so that was a mind blower. Well, so now with Jackie, we did the same thing. And then from that place, we were able to begin to visit places of her deepest wounding. Maybe I'll give the backstory, and then Paul, you can read the text. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, here's a woman. I've her permission to share this with anybody that it will help. In fact, she just texted me, Paul.
Oh, wow.
I will surrender each day, each hour, each minute to Jesus' will for my life. She just said that.
Come on.
Wow.
But it's because
Of course she did.
Yeah.
Come
of
on.
course she did, but she only can do that because someone whose trust was shattered has met him, right?
Mhm.
So we took her to a safe place like this, and then in that safe place, she began to engage with the deep wounds of her heart that included regular sexual abuse and rapes by her father all through her childhood. In fact, from before her time of her memories. Out of that, she developed dissociative identity disorder. I'm also friends with some of her parts, especially a precious little one named Eve. She also developed a 30-year drug addiction. She's now 1,000 days sober
Oh, wow.
after 30 years of injections. But also from there, it flipped into anorexia that's gone on and off. And sadly, her stomach's not taking food again, Paul. So as of yesterday, she was down to 68 pounds. This is a woman in her 50s, and she may not make it. Stage 4 kidney failure, and food is passing through her. But you know what?
And part of that is because her dad would abuse her while feeding her things like dog food or.
Are you serious?
Yeah. No, he was absolutely psychotic. It's worse.
This is real world stuff. This is why we wrote The Pastor.
Yeah. So included in that, he impregnated her twice, and then he took her to the abortion clinic to have the abortions. And she was so full of, so you can imagine why she's trying to numb out and die.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what the drugs are about. That's what the anorexia is about. That's why she can't keep food in her mouth, because of other things he put in there.
Yeah.
But then she meets Jesus, and so maybe Paul, you can tell the whole story about that. That it's so important, you guys. It's worth the time.
It is. So Bradley and I, we're in Eastern Oregon doing something for Open Table, and Brad gets a text from Jackie, and Jackie, it wasn't a text, it was a phone call, right? You were on the phone with Jackie.
Bit of both, yeah.
Bit of both, yeah. And she is calling to say goodbye. At that time, she was down to 66 pounds, and she was done. And the reason that she was calling to say goodbye, that she was done, is that she had gone online and she had seen a video about what happens to babies in utero which are aborted, the tearing apart of their bodies and everything else. And she had never known that. But it was a Christian presentation trying to scare people out of abortions, right?
Yeah.
And shame them out of abortions. And it so horrified her that it pushed her to the place where she was irredeemable at that point, right? And so, but she loves Bradley, and Bradley has been able to walk her into a constant relationship where she meets with Jesus, and she's calling to say goodbye, and I'm there with Bradley while this conversation's going on, and Bradley is caught in the emotions, and I hear him say this. I hear him say, Jackie, I want you to know that I am absolutely opposed to the decision that you're about to make, but I honor you for having the power and the authority to make it. In other words, he is validating her ability to choose. I mean, we have a God who's pro-choice, right? Or else relationship is not even possible.
Right.
But we have a God who's pro-life, apart from which relationship is not possible, right? And so this really tense moment, and she's like, I'm done. I'm done. And he's validating, as his heart is breaking, he's validating her ability to make the choice because he's empowering her. And he's saying, can you just go back to Jesus? Can you just go meet with Jesus? And she's like, no. The shame is so deep and so powerful that she just can't do it. And so she says goodbye and hangs up. And Brad goes to me, he says, I think she's done. I think she's gone. About a minute later, he gets a phone call from Eve, the 5-year-old split.
Oh, wow.
That we as evangelical fundamentalists used to try to cast out. Yeah.
Right.
And Eve, the 5-year-old, is going, and she says, Bradley, please don't give up on us yet. And Bradley goes, but Eve, I can't get her to go meet with Jesus. And he says, yeah, I know, I can't either. And then Bradley goes, but wait, why don't you go meet with Jesus and ask Jesus what to do? And Eve goes, oh, I can do that. And hangs up.
That is wild.
A half an hour later, we get this text from Jackie. Because whatever Jesus told Jackie, whatever Jesus told Eve went back and told Jackie, and Jackie went, it was enough for Jackie to go meet with Jesus.
Wow.
Right? This is what Jackie writes. I went to Jesus and I literally fell to my knees and I sobbed. I couldn't look at him because that's what shame does. It always drives us away, right? Drives us towards isolation, drives us towards the darkness. We pray with our eyes lowered and onto the ground because of shame, historically. And you know, you've known if you've gotten caught in something and shame whispers you're a piece of crap, that you can't even look at the person, and because our eyes are drawn away. And so I couldn't look at him. He put his hand in the back of my head as I crouched at the floor at his feet. He said, look at my eyes. I said, I can't. I did the worst thing someone could ever do. He said, look up, I have something to show you. So I finally looked up, and on Jesus' lap sat 2 little girls who were about 2 years old. They were dressed in different colors, but their dresses were the same, a baby pink and a lavender. They looked like me at that age, only way more beautiful. And their eyes shone with joy and peace. And he told me their names were Joy and Love. I asked, is that them? He said, yes. They grew, but they never passed 2. They seem to like this age. They're always together, always. They don't know pain, and they never have. Pain in the sense of suffering. I cried and I cried and I said, how is that possible after what I did to them, after what I did? He said, you did nothing wrong. I sobbed, yes, I did. I hurt them. I killed them. He said, you didn't kill them. I saved them. Before they felt pain, I took them from your womb, and they've been with me ever since. I said, but I made the decision to kill them. He said, you were in the most painful time of your life. You didn't decide to kill them. I chose to take them. It was my choice. He said, I knew one day you would find this out and we would have to talk. I always knew you would come to me no matter how ashamed you were. I know you love me. I am the savior of your soul. He said, I want you to love yourself. You're way too hard on yourself. You forget what suffering you were living every day. I'm pleased you came to me. You don't ever have to be afraid to. I said, please forgive me, Jesus. He said, there's not one thing you need forgiveness from, not one thing. Now come and meet our precious little ones. So I touched their little hands and I kissed their cheeks, and then they ran away carefree with some angels. And Jesus said, come to me. Climb up on my lap and let me love you. Cry on my robe. I'll heal your broken heart. I'm sorry for what you went through. I know. And I always loved you every single day. So cry now, but don't cry for the babies or from shame. Cry as you forgive yourself. And I will show you and help you see your true, beautiful, loving heart. I am proud of you and I love you always. And when you're done crying, you will see over time that all is well. And you'll be able to feel it and accept it, and the hatred you feel for yourself will drift away. My gift to you is anytime you want to see any of your babies, you can come to me and we'll play together. All you have to do is ask. And please thank Eve. She led you back to me, and thank Bradley for his undying faith in me that encourages you to continually come to me. He also has been my gift to you and to Eve. I sobbed. Thank you, my Jesus. Thank you, my Jesus.
Jeez.
That's a text you got?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're jealous of that, I have such good news for you. You can have it too. That is the kind of living connection that is your inheritance, not even as a Christian, but as a
Human being.
And I have a how-to thing you can that just walks you through it all. So if you were to Google the meeting place, facilitating encounters with God, Brad Jersak, I've got the step-by-step guide that
great.
is basically our the way we approach people like her, and you can see the dramatic fruit of. She is not in a head game there. Some might wonder, is that real? It's like the noose was really around her neck,
Right.
and then the noose really came off her neck. The self-hatred was going to murder her, and then Jesus came and exposed and cleansed that. And if he'll do that for her, and certainly he'll do it for anybody.
And where do you think Jesus lives? If he lives in you, where do you think? Like in your pancreas?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's in your total embodied humanity. That includes your imagination. That includes your rational thinking skills. That includes your ability to feel things. You know, the presence of Jesus by the Holy Spirit is in all of you. You know, one of the martyrs, you know, Teresa of Avila or Joan of Arc, when she was about to be burned at the stake, they said one of the accusations was, you just hear God in your imagination. And she goes like, where else do you think I'm supposed to hear him? You know?
Yeah.
And we have to begin to take the risk of trusting that Christ dwells in us. I mean, that this is an ontological reality, not some kind of a mythical thing.
Yeah.
When a lot of my friends who have been trafficked, the women that I know, when they first start to meet with Jesus, it's so interesting that oftentimes Jesus comes to them as a Labrador retriever.
Really?
Because they can't trust men who have abused them or women who have not protected them.
Yeah.
And so Jesus comes to them, or God the Father comes to them as a Labrador retriever. And sometimes they don't even know who that is at first. They just know they're safe with this puppy or this dog. And
it is playful, friendly, loyal.
Yeah.
You just go through it and you're like, oh, this is an image of the character of God.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he can't be a dog, Paul. He can be a cat with big fangs and a mane, but he can be a lamb, right? But he can be an eagle, but can he be a lab? Absolutely. Absolutely.
He can be a dyslexic dog.
Yeah. You said that was called The Meeting Place, Facilitating Encounters with God by Brad Jersak.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll put it in the show notes for sure.
Yeah, and it's a PDF. It's just 2 or 3 pages, but it's questions, and you just it is the foundation. It's a great foundation that we have seen people put on front of almost any counseling model.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also just my daily prayer life.
Yeah, it's a spiritual discipline, and it seems like the barrier to entry there for a spiritual discipline is pretty low. Like, you don't have to go off and do a 30-day silent retreat. fast for a week. It's like you could do this afternoon. You could sit
the
down
foundation's already there.
Yeah.
When Christ said it is finished.
Yeah. Right.
Paradise has been reopened.
Yeah.
The angel with the sword's gone.
And it does not depend on a conversion experience whatsoever.
Right.
It doesn't. It's not magic. It's relationship.
Yeah. Right.